Alright guys, the time is now for a showdown between Bretonnia, who's going to be led by the Fey Enchantress, and the Beastmen, who are going to be led by Morker the Shadowgave. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So as far as the build goes, we're going to be going with a fairly heavy-duty cav build. In total, we do have 3 groups of the Questing Knights, which are going to be supporting our front line, and they're actually quite good against Beastmen infantry. So if you're looking at Gore herds and Bestigor herds, these guys are going to trade very efficiently with their pretty good sustained combat stats. They have 40 melee attack, 36 melee defense, really good weapon strength. On top of that, their armor piercing is incredibly solid. So against Bestigors, which you do often see like 1 or 2 of in this matchup, or even the Koroks Man Rippers, they can rear charge them, they can do a ton of damage, and yeah, it's very, very solid. So I love the Questing Knights to kind of support the front line, because typically the Beastmen are going to run over your men-at-arms. It's going to be a very quick fight, right? Bestigors have a massive charge bonus, they hit hard. Gore herds do the same thing. The men-at-arms, of course, you know, a pretty solid backbone of the Bretonnian people, but alas, they're not going to stand up to the Beastmen infantry very well. That's why I like to have some Questing Knights, at least in this build. I mean, there's so many different ways you can build Bretonnia. You can go like straight infantry, just bring no knights and just go super wide. You go knight heavy, you can have an air force. Bretonnia actually does have a pretty diverse style of play as it pertains to their builds. But anyways, 3 groups of Questing Knights here are going to be helping out in the front, doing a little bit of work, and also taking boulders to the face. And on the flanks, we have 2 groups of the Knights of the Realm. So yeah, a lot of mobility here in this army. Also mounted yeomen. So the Knights of the Realm are against Minotaurs and Centaurs, and pretty much all the big nasty things that the Beastmen can bring to the table. And 2 groups of mounted yeomen just to chase down Warhounds and also to counter skirmish against Centaurs. Now Centaurs will, I don't know how it would go with these mounted yeomen against the throwing axe variant. That would actually be interesting. I feel like these guys would still win if they got the charge, because they do have that charge bonus of 32. Granted, these guys have 30, so maybe something to test out. A couple groups of peasant archers, which are always pretty good against Minotaurs and Cygors and things like that. Oftentimes they just die before the fighting starts. We also do have the Fey Enchantress. So the Fey Enchantress is a really good pick against Beastmen. Her Mortis Engine effect, lowering the melee attack of aggressive Beastmen infantry, is really good. Chalice of Potions is super clutch. And yeah, she's just a very, very powerful lord. You can go pretty big and get like King Lewin, for example, but the Eye of Moor Sleeve is definitely pretty good, and Spirit Leech spam can be pretty punishing. So I really do like to go with the Fey Enchantress. She's just my preferred style of play. Both are good choices. And I also have 3 groups of Halberds in the back, so just standard men-at-arms with polearms. These guys are really solid. They can actually hold back Bestigors for quite some time and have some really good armor piercing. So, and good against Minotaurs and Cygors and all that other stuff. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So for my opponent's forces here, he does have a Cygor. He's going to be dropping some hot boulder fire, a couple Ungor spears in the front line on the flanks. But the main core of his army is going to be these Bestigor herds, the Butchers of Kalkengard, who are very, very powerful. These guys just roll things over. So they're going to be a pretty good answer against my Questing Knights, actually. And yeah, it looks like Morker. We got a Deathcaster with the Fate of Buna and the Spirit Leech. Blackhorn's Ravagers in the back who can just mow through Bretonnian infantry all day. And over here on the flanks, he does have 2 groups of Centaurs with throwing axes. And we're going to have some skirmishing right out of the gates here. So over here on the far side, I did see that he vanguarded some hounds back here. And the mounted yeoman archers can actually beat the hounds. It's one of the reasons I bring them. So you can see here, it's a pretty good fight. We're going to rout these hounds off, and they certainly can't escape. If they try and run, mounted yeomen are pretty quick and should be able to chase them down. So that's a good fight. In the meantime, I did send my Knights of the Realm over to kind of push off the Centaurs with throwing axes. Granted, the Centaurs are pretty much a hard counter against the Knights. They can kite them. So I was just kind of forcing them back a little bit. I wasn't trying to get like super aggressive there and chase them. I wanted to like force them back, wait till my mounted yeomen were able to finish off the hounds, and then bring them both over to chase those guys off. So the main line fight is almost underway. The men-at-arms are going to be piling in the front. The boulders, unfortunately, are just wrecking my peasant archers, which is so often the case. And I was about to temporarily shut down to Cygor on the flank with mounted yeomen, but he did get a warp gaze, which was quite nice, and allowed him to move some Ungor spears over here. So Knights of the Realm and these mounted yeomen are just going to be waiting, and it looks like the Butchers of Kalkengard are also pushing in. So the battle's about to be here. You can see the Fey Enchantress coming in, and here comes the Rohirrim. The Questing Knights are going to be doing a front long charge here. Fey Enchantress also going to be going in to give the draining. And the Minotaurs begin the engagement here by attacking the men-at-arms. But the Knights of the Realm are going to be countercharging here, and man, Bretonnian heavy cav charges are like some of the most epic stuff in the game. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the wedge formation. I feel like you get a little bit more like overall mass when you charge in with the standard formation, but I guess there are circumstances if you're trying to like punch through where the wedge would be a little bit better. But we get a huge charge here in the Butchers. That's going to be some really solid damage across the rest of the front line. The men-at-arms are fighting here, and the Questing Knights are charging in as well, just getting these massive Bretonnian charges against Bestigors, which is going to be incredibly solid. That's the armor piercing you need to take those guys down, and hopefully it'll pay off. Granted, he has a lot of tools to countercharge me with. Morker can summon Chaos Spawn, so even though it looks really good, I mean, it's gonna turn pretty quick. You guys will see. We get a little bit of damage against Bestigors. They're getting chewed down quick here. The Questing Knights charge into the Spearmen, just trying to break their will here. And the Fey Enchantress is going to be moving in as well, but he does summon Chaos Spawn behind me, which is tough. I move in the Fey Enchantress, and look how quickly the Bestigor herds being taken down by the Questing Knights. Definitely paying their dues. But over here, the Questing Knights do get overwhelmed a little bit. Spearmen coming around, Bestigor's doing well. Morker himself is fighting there, so I wanted to pull back and kind of rearrange things. So some of my peasant archers are going to be regrouping. I pull back with the mounted yeoman because he was able to fend me off with the spears. And the Knights of the Realm are still going to be fighting the Butchers of Kalkengard, and they're doing pretty good. We're getting these guys low, they're shaken, but now that the spears are here, the Ungor spears are going to be able to pile in and provide a lot of support. So the Quest Knights are going to charge in and try and support a little bit. Mounted yeoman sneaking around the back. And if we look over here on the skirmishing side of the battlefield, I did push him back to the edge of the map. So Centaurs, the throwing axes, were of course on skirmish mode, but I have mounted yeomen, and the Knights of the Realm, even with like 25 models, can probably do a ton of work here. So we're about to corner them. This is going to be a pretty good situation. Finally, we're going to get our hands on these filthy beasts here in the corner of the map. So in the mainline fight, you can see just archers coming back everywhere. The halberds and reserve troops are now being pulled forward. We have a pretty heavy pit fight here. The Spearmen at Arms have been given the favor of the Fae, so I did that just to make sure they could take down these Chaos Spawn really quickly, and they're actually doing a really good job. You can see the Chaos Spawn falling, and all of the Peasant Archers are shooting in and doing a ton of damage against the Eye of Morsley, but the bounce of power massively in my opponent's favor, and I think that's partially because of summons, maybe, Chaos Spawn, but even still, that's a pretty sizable advantage at this point. So I've taken a ton of damage early on. Granted, I feel like I've given a lot back, so the Peasant Archers are going to be shooting in at the Cygor here. I got some Men-at-Arms with polearms over from reserve, and they're going to be piling in with their anti-large bonus. They will be taking some boulders to the face, but I have some really good answers against these Minotaurs, as well as the Eye of Morsley here. And the Knights of the Realm coming in with a heavy-duty charge on the Butchers of Kalkengard, getting some massive damage. Peasant Archers with the Overwatch Fire. And now the Fey Enchantress has been pulled over here. I knew that this was a super powerhouse element of the battlefield right here, right? Like, if I could get all my troops in here, just go after these guys and bring them down, it would stabilize the bounce of power. Looks like he did use a Fate of Buna over here on the Spearmen at Arms. That might have been a misclick. Granted, it might have just been like a super healthy group of infantry he wanted to get down, but I have a feeling he was trying to click on something else over here. But nonetheless, we do get the Butchers of Kalkengard down. The Eye of Morsley is going to be going down as well. And the balance of power is now almost dead even. So if we look at the battlefield, the Beastmen definitely have a big pocket of strength, right? They have Gore Herds, they have Bestigors, Ungors, and like their Deathcaster. Morker's in really good shape. They have some Chaos Spawn. They have a really couple big pockets of strength, right? I do have a ton as well over here. You can see Halberds and the Men-at-Arms with Polearms are so good with the Fey Enchantress simply because you can just grind out that long fight. You can have them hold. You can use the Fey Enchantress Drain Aura to take down Bestigors. It is very, very solid. In the back, we do have some troops rallying here. Peasant Archers will be brought back to the battlefield, but the Beastmen are just pushing forward. The Chaos Spawn is kind of wading through the desert. Now, that's pretty disturbing looking, the way they walk. It looks like a little bit like, how in like horror movies, like in The Ring and things like that, they have those like jerky kind of spastic movements. It kind of looks like that, which is good. Anyways, the Quest Knights, we're doing a little bit of cycle charging here, but when the rest of the Beastmen forces do get in here, the Bestigors and Morker and the Deathcaster, we move out a little bit, and then we're going to come across for another charge here, just trying to break as many Beastmen forces away from the main formation as we can. But again, there's a massive beast tide here. They're able to overwhelm my halberds. Unfortunately, I'm going to be losing 50 of them. But right now, we're just going to be killing these Chaos Spawns, stabilizing our big force, and then using our Earthbloods and our healing to really optimize our strength. Knights of the Realm are going to be charging in to slay the unchivalrous brutes, and hopefully we'll be able to take down these foul Chaos monstrosities with our anti-large bonus. And from here, you can see the Chaos Spawn are going to be dissipating from the charge of the Bretonnian Knights. Over here, I do have some Men-at-Arms. I'm trying to get away with everything I can. Quest Knights just trying to regroup, and both my opponent and I are doing pretty much the same thing. On the far side of the battlefield, I did pull my third group of mounted yeomen over here to make sure I won that fight against the Centaurs, but actually ended up being really close. My opponent did detach some spears to help out, but they got there a little bit too late, and I am able to squeak away with Knights of the Realm and two groups of mounted yeomen, which are going to make a huge difference. So you can see a lot of guys are rallying over here. The Bretonnian force is coming in, and I did send some Men-at-Arms to chase off the Eye of Morsley, because if this Eye had come back and I just forgot about it, that could be something that could potentially lose me the game like instantly. But now we're going to be going for some charges here. I'm going to charge into the Beastmen herd, trying to pull out their buffs and all the leadership stuff that they could potentially provide. So we get in there, massive Bretonnian charge coming in the final moments of the battle here. Very, very close. Bounce of power is in the just dead middle. So we get a big charge, but the Bestigors have pretty good mass. They're able to hold the Blackhorn Ravagers in there as well. So we charge in. You can see the Call of Violence has been popped. And as soon as the Beastmen let loose their war cry, I pull back using the Bretonnian cycle charging tactics. So I get an Earthblood off as well. We take very little damage. We get the leadership buff out, which is what we wanted, because right now I'm preparing for another Alpha Strike. I have a pretty good kill box. My archers are shooting in. Unfortunately, I forgot about these ones, so they're a little bit unfortunate. But the mounted yeomen are going to charge in from the back. The cav are charging in from all directions, and here we go. This is going to be the final charge of the Bretonnian Knights, and you can see a massive onslaught of Beastmen just flying into the distance, flying into that pyramid in the back of the map here. But we get a ton of damage on the charge. You can see the Ungor Spearmen herds are starting to buckle. And we're going to get a full sandwich. We're just going to pin them in. I knew where the Bestigor herds were, the real heavy lifting. We're going to be dropping a Chalice of Potion. So just an Alpha Strike timing, getting that charge, pinning them in, and then from there you can see the Beastmen can't escape, and a massive Chalice of Potions comes in and tears apart those Beastmen forces. And you can see that's pretty much going to lead to a mass rout. Now I pull back with all the Bretonnian cav, and now the true backbone of Bretonnia, the Spearmen and Men-at-Arms, are going to be rushing in to clean up the Beastmen herds, while the Knights of Bretonnia just come back in and run them down. Bretonnia is so epic to play. I just love these cav games. I gotta do more of these for you guys, so my apologies for not doing that in the past. But at this point, we do get a pretty massive advantage in the bounce of power, so the rest of this game is a little bit funny, actually, because I'm going to fast forward. It's pretty much over at this point. You can see the bounce of power is in my favor. There's a couple of gore herds and things like that, but it takes so long to kill Morker with this type of an army, right? Like, I don't have any, like, powerful single entity models to really beat him down. So just look at this timer going off. It's pretty hilarious. But Men-at-Arms over here cleaning up, Mounted Yeoman bouncing over there. Over here on the far side, we're going to clean up the gore herds, the Blackhorn Ravagers. Blackhorns Ravagers? Blackhorn? Yeah, Blackhorn Ravagers. But basically, you know, Morker just wasn't dying. And there's actually a ton of Beastmen in here that are so sandwiched, they can't even move. And they're just being like beaten down by hordes and hordes of peasants. Just an absolutely beautiful game here. And look at that. 3 minutes has passed. My opponent and I were sitting here just kind of laughing at this situation. We do shatter a lot of those guys, but at this point I'm like, okay, I thought it was just going to trigger army losses. I was being a little bit lazy. So what I end up doing is I pull back all of my troops, like my infantry and everyone else, and I let his caster actually run, the Brave Shaman with the Lore of Death, right? Because he was pinned in. I couldn't get my high damage units on him. So yeah, a little bit of a weird, just, I don't know, I like told them to re-engage. I thought maybe charging them would break, but it didn't, right? So what I end up doing is I get an Earthblood off, which triggers the bounce power in my favor. I pull back with everything. I let his caster go eventually, and I think there was some more Beastmen forces. Yeah, it looks like the Blackhorn Ravagers are pretty much running at this point, but I let his Deathcaster go, and at that point I chase him down with the Knights, I kill him, and that's going to trigger army losses. Because yes, this horde could kill Morker eventually, but it really takes forever, right? So I let him go, and you can see just the horde of Knights just piling in, and Morker's chasing with his Pimpclaw, trying to do all the work he can, but alas, that's going to be all she wrote. And it ended up, like, the game was over at like 6 or 6:30, like 7 minutes, but it ended up going like another 5 or 6 minutes, and that's going to trigger army losses. Now, I probably could have killed Morker way quicker by pulling back all my troops and just engaging with the Knights, who hit a lot harder, but I don't know. I figured it would just like end. I was like, oh, he has nothing left, but I guess Morker accounts for a lot of the bounce power. But very well played by my opponent. That was a super fun game. That was Alpha Strikes and those big epic Bretonnian charges in the fourth quarter. And playing factions like Empire and Bretonnia often lead to those kind of games because they're pretty tough factions to play in general. And, you know, you lose a lot of stuff initially because their troop quality isn't going to be as much as some of the other more aggressive factions, but their kind of diversity and the cav and things like that can really make for really fun, exciting games for sure. So, but yeah, I like that build quite a bit. Now, you could have gone with the double Paladin. I would have had to cut 2 Questing Knights, who I felt were quite helpful. The Paladin probably could have sniped out the Eye of Morsley, but honestly, I think it worked out pretty well. And yeah, you can go with the double Paladins like you guys saw in the replay from a couple days ago. It works really well for sniping out the Deathcaster and these things. But also, I mean, this worked out well too. And I thought the mass amount of Questing Knights and the cav was very, very efficient this game. And as far as my opponent's army goes, I like it. Yeah, the Eye of Morsley is very good against Bretonnia. It's good at taking apart their cav and their archers. Warp Gaze is very powerful against the cav as well. And that would have been a little scary with the Paladins, right? You could have Warp Gazed me and taken me out with the Minotaurs. But yeah, the Best Scores did a good job in the front line. I think that having the Centaurs be used a little bit more defensively, like have them knowing that you're not going to be able to contest open field with the Mounted Yeoman and you just don't have the power to do that, I think falling back to your main army immediately is going to be a little bit more important than trying to kite around the map and, you know, eventually get yourself caught. So I think that would have been a difference. I don't know if it would have saved him, but I think it would have been quite helpful. But aside from that, I like his army quite a bit. It was definitely very fun. So very well played in my opponent. Fishy sack, 13 fishy sack. I don't know the meaning of that or any other variables, but regardless, very well played to you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Bretonnia versus Beastmen showdown, and we will see you guys next time. Take care.